Wow, man. We've got some absolutely breaking news. I need you guys to stay with me in today's video. A huge power play is about to be made and has been made already by Vergil Ortiz's team. A power move that is going to determine a whole lot on who gets a higher percentage when it comes to negotiations, who's the A side, who's the B side. When it comes to a fight between Jerome Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz, it's being reported that Vergil Ortiz's team has officially reached out, have a conversation with WBC President Mauricio Solomon, and have told him that they're ready for their consolidation fight with Sebastian Fundora. They're ready to have that fight mandated as the rightful should have been next opponent. Ladies and gentlemen, WBC interim champion of the world, Vergil Ortiz, has been the interim champion since August of 2024. How do you become the WBC interim champion in 2024 and still haven't got a title shot? What does that WBC interim title even mean? What's the purpose if you aren't going to be mandated to face and get that next title shot? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very huge power play that is trying to be made by Team Ortiz's team due to the fact that they're being boxed out. Jerome Boots Ennis and his team have made it clear that they want to become undisputed now instead of chasing that Vergil Ortiz's fight. Bozy Ennis, the father of Jerome Boots Ennis, came out and said that we waited too long. Now you guys are going to be the ones to wait, forcing and possibly not having this fight until the back end of 2027 or 2028. They want to chase the undisputed titles first. Ladies and gentlemen, how long is that going to take? We have to see. But Sebastian Fundora, Josh Kelly, they don't want to have these fights with Vergil Ortiz. Now everybody wants to fight Jerome Boots Ennis. They want to have the unification fight. In the beginning, when negotiations began with Jerome Boots Ennis and Vergil Ortiz, after Vergil Ortiz knocked out Erickson Lubin in November of 2025, it was Vergil Ortiz and their side who were going to have the slightly higher percentage when it came to negotiations. But now, with Jerome Boots Ennis becoming the WBA, WBO, Unified Junior Middleweight Champion, with the more fans backing him, with Eddie Hearn making the public statement that they feel like they're the A side now, that they feel like we were taking a slightly lower percentage than Vergil Ortiz in the first fight, but now that we have the bouts, we got the leverage, it's going to be entirely different. So with boxing them out, and if Jerome Boots Ennis becomes the undisputed champion, when setting up a fight with Vergil Ortiz, y'all know when it comes to negotiations, they could possibly try to lowball Vergil Ortiz, or Vergil Ortiz is just going to have to accept the lower offer. But the man has been the WBC interim champion. How do you allow Sebastian Fundora in another voluntary defense? How many has that been? Like 3 voluntary defenses in his last 4 fights, ladies and gentlemen? If you allow that to happen, I mean, then the WBC interim title is fake here. Ladies and gentlemen, Sebastian Fundora became the Unified Junior Middleweight Champion against Tim Tszyu back in, what was it? March? Back in 2024, okay? Vergil Ortiz beat Sergey Boacek to become the WBC interim champion in August of 2024. Right after that fight, Vergil Ortiz and his team, Rick Merrigan, reach out, try to get a fight with Sebastian Fundora, from becoming WBC interim champions now to getting the full world title shot. And Samson Lukovic and Sebastian Fundora turned it down. They didn't want it. Instead, we don't see Sebastian Fundora return until March of 2025. Against who? Jordell Booker, ladies and gentlemen, in a non-mandated fight, a voluntary defense. And then who does he face after that? Who does he face after Jordell Booker? He was mandated to defend his title, WBO title, against Xander Zayas, ladies and gentlemen. But what did he do? He vacated the bout to pursue the second fight with Tim Tszyu. Another non-mandated fight. Okay? And while that goes down, Vergil Ortiz goes to fight Israel Madrimov in February, the beginning of 2025. Sebastian Fundora got his own goddamn things going on. They still don't want to fight with Vergil Ortiz. Vergil Ortiz then turns the sights on Jerome Boots Ennis, since they know they're just not going to be able to lock in the fight with Fundora. And the WBC president isn't doing nothing about it, ladies and gentlemen. Now I'm going to give you my take on a possible, maybe this is Vergil Ortiz's fault in a somewhat perspective, but really it's not. But I'm going to explain to you guys what I have to say about that from that aspect. But Sebastian Fundora ends up going and fights Keith one-time Thurman, ladies and gentlemen. Now, from November, after the man fought against Erickson Lubin, Vergil Ortiz, in November, he fought in February against Israel Madrimov 2025, then comes back and fights Erickson Lubin in November of 2025. They had their eyes set on Jerome Boots Ennis, so they weren't forcing, they weren't going for Sebastian Fundora and putting issue on the WBC during those times. So from that aspect, okay, maybe it is kind of their fault for, you know, switching up and not going towards Sebastian Fundora's way. But still, the WBC could have still mandated that fight as soon as Vergil Ortiz became the champion, the WBC interim champion. Right after that, they tried to get the fight with Fundora. He didn't want it. So they go and try to make the Jerome Boots Ennis fight after Erickson Lubin, and then the dude ends up getting a restraining order against him and all that with Oscar De La Hoya. So the WBC is going to come out and say that during that time, we couldn't do it. But there was times before when they could have mandated the fight, and there was times after. Sebastian Fundora goes and fights Keith one-time Thurman in another non-mandated fight. And now, as soon as Jerome Boots Ennis becomes a unified WBA, WBO junior middleweight champion and tries to set up a fight with Fundora, Sampson and Fundora once again, now all of a sudden, go for their mandatory fight, but that was non-forced against Urmah Hajibaj. And the WBC allows this. How does Urmah Hajibaj get to fight and become the mandatory to fight Sebastian Fundora before Vergil Ortiz? When Vergil Ortiz was the interim champion since August of 2024, it makes absolutely no sense. But during that time, while Vergil Ortiz was heading for that Jerome Boots Ennis fight, okay, I already know when Mauricio Sullivan gets asked about this, I already know exactly what he's going to say. He's going to bring that up for that specific duration of time. Well, all that is over now, ladies and gentlemen. It's clear that Vergil Ortiz now, and the power move that they're going to make, is to fight Sebastian Fundora and force the WBC president to make this fight happen. Now, I've seen the WBC do a lot of dirty things, like not give Dalton Smith, after beating Sabiro Matias, by not giving him a voluntary defense, instead of forcing him into an automatic fight with Alberto Puello. Sometimes they just enforce things. So I'm saying right here, y'all need to enforce Sebastian Fundora to face Vergil Ortiz as soon as this Urmah Hajibaj fight is over. Ladies and gentlemen, Vergil Ortiz and his team need this. They get a WBC title. Now the leverage has shifted back to 50-50, possibly even leaning towards Vergil Ortiz's way. If the dude is able to secure a title, when it comes to negotiations, this is going to matter so much, bro. So a power play is being created here. And all that being said about the WBC, I believe if the WBC does enforce this, this will make them look good for once. I don't have to bring up no more all the bull crap with Jordell Booker and then Tim Zoo too. And then Keith one-time Thurman. Hey, we don't need to talk about that no more. If the WBC just decides to make the right decision now. So they're going to have a very important decision to make here, ladies and gentlemen. Force this fight to happen or force Sebastian Fundora to vacate his title. Ladies and gentlemen, now we all know unifications trump mandatories. But in this case, Mauricio Sullivan and their team can make an exception. They've done countless corruption things before in their career. They can enforce this fight or force Sebastian Fundora to vacate his title, ladies and gentlemen. But we got to see. You know, Samson Lukovic, Sebastian Fundora's manager, has a great relationship with WBC president Mauricio Sullivan. Mauricio might get this message, might not take it serious, might just let Sebastian Fundora after the Hajibas fight, which is a mandatory, might just let him go and fight in another voluntary defense. Who the hell knows, ladies and gentlemen? But it's some important stuff right here. I believe this is the next move, the next power play that's about to be set forth. And it's going to be up to the WBC president to make some decisions here and do what's right and give Vergil Ortiz his title shot. Maybe they did it and they started chasing towards Jerome Boots Ennis once Fundora made it clear that they didn't want it when y'all should have enforced it first. But maybe, yes, everything happened with that, the cease and desist letter. Maybe part of this is on their side. Maybe part of this is their fault. But even while being under that cease and desist with Golden Boy and all that, y'all could have still ordered this fight to happen and just wait on it for a little bit. But no, Mauricio is going to say and come out with the excuse that he was dealing with his issues. So therefore, we could not mandate that fight. And that's why Herman Hajibas is getting the fight beforehand. Ladies and gentlemen, Vergil Ortiz's team has now came out and said that they are ready to make that fight happen. They want it. It's the next power move. They're being boxed out. Let me know what you guys think. It's absolutely breaking news, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen. This is some absolutely interesting stuff, man, because this is going to matter a lot when negotiations come. Dudes are trying to make big moves here and trying to change what's going down between Jerome Boots Ennis and his plan. Let me know what you guys think.